I was already deep in my content journey when EVMUX popped up on my radar. Went live like I usually do to test out its functions and features, and quickly had a large audience, including one of the founders of EVMUX. It's a streaming and creator platform built by remote producers of virtual events for remote producers of virtual events. And that's a critical thing to understand, because there are some features you simply will not use, but they could be nice to have at some point. I've broken this crash course into 4 sections: the dashboard, creating, Studio Essentials, and Studio Advanced. Let's dive in. So here we are looking at the dashboard, and first thing I want to share here is don't get intimidated. This looks similar to the dashboard of StreamYard, similar to the dashboard of Restream, even though they've made some tweaks recently, similar to several other dashboards that we're seeing. And if you haven't seen a newcomer to the block, which is live reacting, I want you to check out that video, and I'll leave a card right here. But this is the dashboard. This is the dashboard, and on the dashboard, on the extreme left side over here, you have kind of where we want to begin. Got your EVMUX logo here at the top, and you have your project name. All right, your project name is kind of a family of shows, or maybe even a company, a family of shows, family of content, or maybe a company. So if I have like my personal brand, which is how it all works, then I also have my company that my wife and I run called Composition. Those are slightly different shows. Under Composition, we have Incubator's Couch. Under How It All Works, I've got the Coaching Corner, Morning Motivation, Why I Go Live podcast. So I've got a couple of different shows underneath those projects. And so that's how you would want to think about that. Your projects are considered kind of a family of content, maybe a company or a family of shows. And then you have in your projects, you have several studios. And so if I go down here a little bit, you'll see studio name. I've got Coaching Corner with Kirk, Morning Motivation, Vertical, Amazon Live. And so I've just got a family of shows that are there. So that's kind of the main thing to understand between projects and studios. Studios being where you will actually create content, go live, stream to your destinations, things like that. You do have your dark mode or light mode right here. I'm going to keep it on dark mode. You can see how drastic that changes my lighting profile in my studio. And that's one of the reasons why dark mode is so critical. Excited that they do have that. I have my profile over here in the corner. You can update your email address and some of your preferences, even your lower third, which is something unique that EVMUX does. We're looking at dashboard, and this whole thing I would call the dashboard, but separate from dashboard, you do have destinations underneath it, kind of a sub point. And here you can actually set up your destinations. You click add destination, select whichever one of these you'd like to add, and just kind of walk through that process. It'll kind of walk you through a wizard to be able to connect your destinations in whatever way you choose. So that's a good one to make sure you do as you're getting set up in EVMUX. Set up all your destinations, including your RTMP destinations, and you can be good to go. Studios, as I mentioned, you have some studios that are right there on the dashboard, but you can actually click here so that you can see all the studios that you have available. And studios also have recordings attached to it. This would be the equivalent of if you're familiar with StreamYard, and if you've seen my video on reusable studios with StreamYard, all the studios in EVMUX are essentially reusable. There is no other type of studio. So you don't have to create a studio for each show. You create studios for, let me say studio for each episode of a show, but you just create studios for each particular show that you're going to do. So then you have speakers, and we're going to get into scheduling and some other things like that later. You can actually add your speakers ahead of time, which is, again, something unique, and add their lower third, and it'll send them a custom link, and they can always use that link to enter that particular show. And that can be really something cool especially if you have a regular collaborator that you work with, a regular host or co-host, I should say, that you work with, because the term collaborator is used for something else. So speakers are guests that you're going to have on your show, whereas collaborators are people who are actually going to help you run your show. They can enter the studio with similar functions and abilities that you do to be able to bring people on and off screen, manage your backstage, open up comments, bring up banners, all of those types of things that really serve to make the show what it is. Essentially, they can be your co-producer. Collaborators are essentially co-producers, not necessarily guests, unless your guest is your co-producer. But your co-producer is somebody who you're going to actually have help you run the show, all the technical things behind the scenes. Then we also have this settings tab. Here you can kind of set your logo, give it some descriptions, different things like that. And again, that does help because some of these assets are available when you get inside the studio. So going back to the main dashboard, you'll see, of course, a summary of all the different things that you have. You have your storage here on the side, but you will also see this little create button. This is, don't go down this rabbit hole. If you've already created your studios, you don't need this create button. If you've already created your recordings, if you're doing a regular podcast with a co-host, you don't need this create button. All of your assets and everything have been set up inside the studio that you have already created. You only need this create button essentially if you're doing a pre-recorded video of some sort that you want to stream to multiple destinations. That probably could work, but even with that, you could also just set it up inside your studio. So just wanted to make sure that that little quirk is clear. Now, I'm going to enter my coaching corner with Kirk Studio. That's where I'm at right now. Inside the studio, however, you do have the ability to select additional studios. So you can see Morning Motivation, Amazon Live, some of the other studios, and I can just switch directly from this studio to that studio. And each one of them, at least for me, has different assets, different graphics, different overlays. So now that we're inside of the studio, want to take a look at some of the functions and features that you have while in here. And essentially, this section I want to call Studio Essentials. Studio Essentials. Overlays, videos, backgrounds, sound effects, and background music are all here. I'm actually going to switch out to my top-down shot. And so we have here in a dynamic scene, I want to be clear on that. On dynamic scene, you we'll see this layers icon, but it really doesn't do anything for dynamic scenes. More on that later. But you have the ability to add your logo. You have the ability to add video clips. And the way you would play a video clip would just be simply to click it once you have it loaded in for that particular show. You get a preview of it just by mousing over it, but it isn't necessarily playing. If I hit the show button, you'll see that that is actually playing. And when it finishes playing, it's going to go back to whatever I had on screen before it was playing. This is a good time to be able to put other overlays up and different things like that. But yeah, we're back to the main camera. So we have videos here. If you have overlays that are transparent or overlays that are full screen, here's a full screen overlay. Just by clicking it, it shows it. By clicking it again, it hides it. If I want to do a crop layout for both of these cameras, I have a crop layout overlay that shows the lower third, and the lines in the middle, with the Why I Go Live podcast at the top. So again, it just works because that's the way that I've designed it, and it's designed for that particular layout. If I want to do a full screen, let's say like this one, and I can show that full screen overlay, coaching corner here. And then you have the with Kirk in the middle with this full screen overlay. Those are just three kinds of overlays that you can show. And again, if you want to get a little fancy, you can play the video clip. And while that video clip is playing, you'll see this red dot letting you know that that's playing. Then you can go to this other layout and add this other overlay. And when it comes back, you'll see that that layout has changed. So the two cameras are there with the overlay. So that's how I like to use some of these videos as kind of a scene change for what you're doing But yeah, that's how overlays will function. You also have backgrounds. And in this case, you can see my How It All Works background. And if I change this to this layout, you'll see that that's there. I do, however, need to probably hide that other overlay because it doesn't make sense in this particular layout. I have this layout, this background as well. I also have this background as well. And it's simply by hitting the plus sign right here, you can actually go ahead and add new backgrounds to your system that you've designed, maybe in Canva or wherever else. I've designed most of mine in Canva. I actually have some even for sale, just in case you're interested. But those are some of the things that we can do with graphics, overlays, videos here inside EVMUX in your dynamic scene. And in addition to that, as we talked about in Studio Essentials, we also have banners. We've got banners and comments. So here's what the comment looks like. I'm going to make my camera full screen again and just add a comment. You have comments right here. Again, you have the ability underneath brand here at the bottom to be able to go through and change the style of your comment. You have a different style here, style 3. For comments, you have style 4 for comments, and style 2 is what I had it on originally. Then you can actually do some tweaking. You can change the colors. You can add some different frames. There's just a number of different things that you can do for your comments. And again, if you go to banners and add a banner here, let's change this banner so that it's not a ticker and save it. Let's change this banner, edit, and save it. It's not a ticker. And let's add that banner now. Now you can see that that banner is there, and it takes on the same branding as we had before. So banners are also affected by the different styles that you have selected, and your brand is at the bottom, always there. No matter what tab you're in, you always have brand down here that you can go to. And if you have a banner up, it will always indicate that you do have that by having that red mark on it. You can create banners just by hitting the create button, typing the primary text and secondary text if you want 2 layers. And then you can actually decide whether or not you want it to be a scrolling ticker. And that is fairly standard and very useful. So I wanted to make sure, again, these are some of the essentials that are in the studio here in EVMUX that I think will be super helpful for you as you acclimate to this system. The last thing I want to share, of course, two more things before we move into Studio Advanced, and that is music. And you can add both sound effects to your studio. Here's an air horn. And when you click it, it just plays, but you also have the ability to hit the 3 dots and change the volume on it. You can change the title on it, and you can actually decide whether or not that music plays multiple times or not. So you have some options there. Sound effects are here. You can see that this sound effects section, but you also have music here as well, and you can actually put them into a playlist. You can actually decide that playlist is on or off, and you can actually decide the volume of your background music, and I hope it is background music as you're using these. So I have some music that I've added here, but you can upload them just by simply going to add music into your section. So you hit edit music list, you can actually click to upload new music. And there are music that I do not have checked, so I don't actually have them in this particular list. So you can have music uploaded into your studio that aren't necessarily in this list. You get to curate what that list looks like. So that's what that music one looks like. Then lastly, we talked about destinations before in terms of setting them up. But if you are going to go live, you would actually need to go in and select a destination, turn it on, and decide what you want to do there. And so we hit save on this. That destination is set and ready to go. We can hit the edit button and actually schedule it now. So now my YouTube is here. I've got EVMUX test. I can click on this box that says schedule for later. I can upload a thumbnail here. I can add other destinations just by simply clicking them, and then it will give me the ability to then further add those details for that particular destination. So each destination has a little expand and contract here, and you can expand it, put the details in. So if you have different links you want for Facebook or YouTube, You can do that. And then, of course, you can set the date and time that you're going to go live and publish that to your audience so that they know ahead of time that you're going to be doing that. And again, that's one of the reasons why I'm like, you don't need to do this from the dashboard. You can do all of it from the studio. You can do it from the studio. So that's one of the things for going live. Last thing I want to share is, of course, the guest experience. If you click here to invite a guest, you can copy that guest link. And you can actually go here and regenerate guest URL. If somebody has access to your link that you don't want to actually have access to it, you can make that switch and do it that way, because sometimes you gotta kick people out. So I'm just opening an incognito tab now, and I have added that link. This is what it would look like for your guest. They would have to allow. While visiting this site, boom, camera and microphone. So we did that. And here now we can put our name, Tim Richards. Don't know who Tim Richards is, but I hope that they are okay with me using their name. I will use my BTS camera, my HP webcam. I'm going to leave some of these things here, but I just wanted you to be able to see what that looks like for the guest. Then we can click on audio. We can select your which audio interface and some of the things, background noise, stereo input. If the guest is a musician or has a pro setup, they can make some of those changes. Then they can also do their background, virtual background. It's giving you a little warning here. You can say, got it. You can tell it you have a green screen. You can blur. There's some things that you can do there. So that's what the guest experience looks like. And once you're done, you can hit that closing the settings icon, and then you can click to join the broadcast. And once you do that, this is the look for the guest. This is the look for the guest. I'm going to mute myself here in the guest system. But yeah, and another thing, if you're ever doing this on the same machine, you might want to mute it so that you don't get that feedback. But this is what your guests will see in their system. They do also have the ability to go to dark mode, which I will do right now. They can see comments and they can see private chat. So they can talk with you as the host. In addition, one of the things that you have here, and again, like I mentioned, this is something that is specific to EVMUX because it is for producers. The host has the ability to actually select the guest and speak directly to them without that audio going out to the broadcast. So keep that in mind as well. Guests can actually turn off their camera, turn on their camera. They can mute themselves. They have the ability to go back into settings and make some changes even after they've already come in. They can play a local video from their machine. That's really clutch. Then they can also share their screen as well. So guests have significant functionality. Another thing that you can do is literally from here as a guest, I can click on open chat, and now I'm speaking directly to the host and not to anyone else. So I'm gonna hit test there and hit enter, and you can see it says me and it says test. I'm sending that. Now I have comments, I have private chat, but in the private chat, I now have group, and I also have the direct chat. So I don't necessarily have to send a message directly to the entire group. I can send a message just to the host or producer. Hey, I'm having an issue. Maybe I need to disconnect. Again, really granular functionality that you can be able to use to be able to utilize this system. For the guest to be able to leave, you simply go up here to the top where their name is and just hit log out, and that guest would leave. But before we kick that guest out of there, I'm going to go back to the host screen. So now you can see this guest has been added. And I can also see that, hey, there's a private chat icon here. I can click on that. I can see there's a group, and then there's also Tim Richards. I can see Tim Richards is saying test. That worked. And we can respond back to them just to that one person. But this is what I referenced before, this push to talk icon. I can simply go here, click push to talk, and I can talk to that particular guest just by clicking right there. Just click it, talk to the guest, and let them know whatever is happening. And you can even say to them, just as you can see that it's muted, hey, you're muted. A really, really great functionality that EVMUX has added here, because this is for producers who have experienced a lot of these scenarios as a producer themselves. And so definitely something that they wanted to include here as well. So that's really awesome. That's pretty much it for our Studio Essentials or Studio Basic, whatever you want to call it. For Studio Advanced, I'm not going to necessarily do a bunch of how-to, but I definitely want to show you what's available. And let me know in the comment section if you want some more granular, detailed how-to videos on some of these functions and features that I'm just going to highlight here very quickly as we close out today's video. Now, Studio Advanced would mean that we would want to go back to our side of the extreme left side of our screen. You'll see that I've been sitting on dynamic scene this entire time. That's where I've been. And that's basically what mimics everything, all of the other platforms that are out there. But right below it, you have Pro Scenes. And in Pro Scenes, you can do a number of things. So we can add all kinds of stuff to here to be able to take advantage of Pro Scenes. You can add different shapes of cameras. You have the ability to set your layers. And so in this instance, I have a background as one layer. I can turn that off, turn that on. When I have that graphic or that asset selected, it allows it to come to the front so that I can edit it and make some modifications if I need to. Then when I've deselect it, it shows it the way that it will be viewed to the audience. I have a camera here for myself, and that camera has actually been set to a round camera. So that's pretty cool as well. Camera 2 and camera 3 are there as well. Here's yet another scene that we've created. It's just a new scene that is blank. You can add your layers here. Let me go to this other one. This is another scene that has been created. Again, you have your background. So that is there. And again, when I have it selected, it's there. I have this other template that this is another virtual background that I'm going to go ahead and hide. This is a dynamic grid that you see on screen right now. Dynamic grids basically adds the dynamic scene to your pro scene. And so if I take this off of full, you'll see that those two are there. And that's just how the dynamic grid has been designed. When I add this third camera, it just kind of naturally brings all of them in. So dynamic grid is a really cool feature. I also have a RSS feed ticker. I also have the view count, which is not visible right now. I'm going to actually turn that on. You can see that right in the middle top. I know that's small, but you can see what that view count looks like. Then I also have this overlay that I can show, but I'm not going to show, but you have them in layers, and layer priority for pro scenes means that whichever one is higher in the scene is what will be visible. So that's another functionality of Pro Scenes. And this ticker that you see running across the bottom, that ticker is a widget. And so when you click on add new layer, you have the ability to add, of course, dynamic grid, all kinds of things, media files, videos, all kinds of things. But one of the options you have here is apps and widgets. And I showed this in the intro. There is just unlimited potential for apps and widgets that you can bring in. Chat box, you can bring in chat from all the places that you're streaming to, RSS feed tickers, view counters. You can do polls, giveaway, scrolling text. I mean, it's amazing. Audio visualizer, just in case you have somebody who doesn't have their camera on, you just want to visualize their audio. Overlay animations. There's just so many different things. QR code generator, so many different things. And this is an ever-growing marketplace. This is the EVMUX app marketplace that you can actually go in and utilize and just play with some of them, really adding a whole new level of functionality to your live streams and your live shows. Here is yet another. And you'll notice as I'm moving through the pro scenes, there you have transitions built into them. I can select which transition I want depending on which scene I'm going to. And even as I play a video, those videos will also auto switch. You can see it saying here, auto switch to host main to a particular video, or I should say scene, when that video is done. So a number of functions and features that are possible here with Pro Scenes that is above and beyond anything that we have seen or could see from some of the other platforms, because they don't necessarily have scenes. Here's yet another where I'm playing that video, and then we'll go into my Q&A. And so you see there's yet again another type of transition where the arrows go across. And this one, I've included a chat box widget from the Apps and Widgets marketplace. And so though the chat would be going through right there, I've got my camera cropped in a little bit with my lower third on it. So several different ways that you can utilize the functionality of Pro Scenes that gives your show a completely different look than what you would normally see otherwise. The only other thing I'd want to share here is that Pro Scenes can be exported. So if I click on the three dots next to my screen, and you can actually, expand this out a little bit if you want to see that bigger. I'm going to hide these layers a little bit, expand this out a little bit so I can see that a little bit bigger. If I click on the three dots, one of the options you have, of course, you have Stinger transition. That's the transition thing I was talking about, but you can actually share this scene. When I click on share scene, you have this this code, and I would simply copy that and paste it into the other studio or share it with a friend who wants to utilize those scenes. And you will be able to import that whole scene with its design and everything into your other studio. I'm going to go back to my dynamic studio for just a second and showcase one last thing here that I think is a pro feature, an advanced feature, not something that you would want to use is if you're just, getting started. But this is a crash course, so we want to showcase everything. And that is when you go to your settings icon. Let me do that again a little slower. If you go to the settings icon here, the third option down is hotkeys. And hotkeys are keyboard shortcuts that you can utilize to use your Stream Deck. I use the Stream Deck and I use the Stream Deck pedal, and you can see here, play next scene, play previous scene, transition from edit to live. That's for studio mode. You can have play scene one, right? You can actually program each individual scene that you have set up as a hotkey, and which by extension means you can have them set up as a button on your Stream Deck, and you can control your entire broadcast this way. This is, yes, a pro feature, an advanced feature, I would say, but definitely something that you should be aware of. Very granular control that you have access to here in EVMUX. And I think definitely something for us all to check out. Live streaming allows businesses, brands, influencers, authors, or consultants to showcase their expertise and share their value. However, there are some streaming for the sheer fun of it, and that's okay. And they're growing an audience, while others see it as a necessary marketing component, and that's critical. Very different motives. EVMUX has set themselves up as a creator/streaming platform with functions and features regardless of what your motives are. I didn't go in depth with Pro Scenes simply because there's too much to cover, but in this video right here, I walked through some essential scenes for vertical streaming, how to build them, and even make them available for download. Click right here to watch, and I'll see you over there. Grace and peace, fam.